All right, let's go ahead and get started. I want to thank everybody for joining us today at the, where are we? Upper Lake Nice LAPAC meeting. Our main goals today, let's see, I didn't pull up the agenda, but I'm going to do it right now as I'm talking to you. If you took a look at that agenda that went out a while ago, and it's actually the same agenda posted for every single LAPAC meeting, you'll see the 5 bullet points. That's not it. Let me keep going. 5 bullet pointed agenda items for us to cover. This is sort of the distilled list from the LAPAC input page that we sent out a couple weeks ago, and those were what the core team came up with as deliverables from each LAPAC. And so I kind of synthesized those into those 5 bullet points, but they do include what we're working on today, which is any input or commentary on the second community survey, as well as couple other things we're going to talk about in in-person meetings, like community growth boundary amendments, land use designation changes, and then planning boundary amendments. So I'm going to go over that a little bit too. I think that most of our time will probably be spent in going over that second survey. If you haven't had time to go over it, don't worry. You don't have to avert your eyes or not look at us, because you still have that community expertise. And as we go through the different topics, I know that you'll still have plenty of helpful stuff to add. So actually, Ruby, can you pull up an agenda from one of the LAPACs when you get a minute? All right, I'll ask her after she's off the phone. Anyway, let's take a look. Before we start with the second survey, I just want to give you what's coming up as far as Lake County 2050 meetings go. We are having a Spanish stakeholder meeting on Wednesday, I think, or Thursday. Yes. Let me look. Sorry, should have been ready. Yes, tomorrow at 6 p.m. at St. Mary's Church in Lakeport. This is for any Lake County resident from any town, city, or town who speaks Spanish. We are serving pizza, and it's an attempt to get access to an input from a demographic that we haven't really seen reflected strongly in our surveys. If you did take a look at the second survey, you'll note that Upper Lake and Nice has very similar demographics actually to all of our second community surveys, and that is mostly survey participants from 50 years and older and predominantly white. So we are continuing our efforts both with the Spanish stakeholder meeting as well as our ongoing scheduling and working out with meeting with tribes to make sure that we're getting a diverse array of input as we continue to develop the key issues and the thoughts and priorities that are going to help guide the core team as we draft the local area plans starting in the second half of November. Also upcoming on Thursday and Monday are in-person meetings for the LAPACs, and it's all LAPACs at one time at the board chambers in Lakeport, and it starts at 5 and goes till 6:30. And the only agenda item at those two meetings is to talk about the planning area boundaries. And so it would just be most efficient to get all of our LAPACs together for this type of discussion so that modifications to like Cobb Mountain that affects Middletown or Lower Lake, we'll have Cobb, Middletown, and Lower Lake people all there at the same time. Same with Kelseyville. So the planning boundary changes can all be discussed by the different LAPACs at one time. And so those are 2 in-person meetings in the evening, Thursday and then next Monday in the Board of Supervisors chambers from 5 to 6:30. We're going to hover over large format maps with our Sharpies and our Post-it notes and get some stuff done. And let's see, what else? We still have also ongoing other LAPAC meetings. All the LAPACs are now really starting to get some traction in the stuff that we're talking about. So it's pretty exciting. Some of them, all LAPACs are on different tracks. It depends on how quickly our group goes, or if we need more discussion. If it takes longer, it's going to take longer. But just know that your LAPAC is just as important as the other 7, and we'll work together to get this stuff done. Hopefully with as much public input as humanly possible. And that is a segue to the next thing I wanted to tell you, which was I sent out a hopefully last doodle poll. I think I sent it out last Friday. And it basically has every open time slot between now and the middle of November, which is our deadline to finish our consensus building in our LAPACs. And so I also opened up weekend times and evening times, just to see if they're, just to make sure that we're maximizing all opportunities for the public to access our meetings and give their input. So please, if you haven't yet, go through that doodle poll. Tonight is when I'm going to close it off. And then tomorrow, Ruby and I will work furiously to schedule out additional meetings for LAPACs. If we don't need them, we won't have them. But it's good to have them on the calendar in case we do need them. And it will be for additional virtual meetings, as well as we're going to schedule one in-person LAPAC meeting that is only your LAPAC, so it'll be in your planning area, and that will be for us as a LAPAC to go over the community growth boundaries, as well as any requests for land use designation changes. And again, we'll be hovering over our large format maps with our Sharpies and our Post-it notes, and working through those topics in person with maps so we can see what we're all talking about together.
Maria,
and so
Maria,
yeah, go ahead, Betsy.
Will you be able to send electronic copies to those of us who are disabled and cannot attend in person?
Good question. Those electronic copies are already available. I tried sending them out through email, but the maps themselves, the PDFs, were like 4 megabytes. So I think that it was problematic. So exactly. We actually uploaded it on the lakecounty2050.org website. All of the maps are there. If you go onto the lakecounty2050.org, click on the documents tab and scroll down, you'll see the map for your planning area. Thank you, Betsy. Good question. Let's see. If I haven't said it before, for this LAPAC, we're a small group, so don't feel like you have to raise your hand if you have something to say. Just talk. We'll handle it as much as like we're all sitting around a table kind of format as possible. Oh, but if you're not talking and you have a dog barking or something like that, please go ahead and mute yourself. Let's see. Oh, darn it. Tablet just turned off. Okay, let's jump into the second survey. Already talked a little bit about the demographics, primarily 50 years and older. Apparently, we're really good survey takers, but we will continue our outreach to get more diversity in our input. The question number 4 and 5 were questions that actually came from staff. One was asking people about how they feel about mixed use development. And mixed use development is allowing for residential accessory uses or residential uses within commercial zones. So this would be similar to, a couple apartment homes over a pizza place, or, maybe a house that's out behind the coffee shop or something like that. Across the board.
It's called work. It's called Work to Live.
I like that. That works.
They have them in Petaluma. They have a whole section. They do.
Yeah, and you can see things anywhere from really large scale, like in the Bay Area. They've got whole kind of walkable neighborhoods in that they have the multifamily residential homes with the stores on the bottom, stuff like that. Or it could be small, like a rural area, where we have an apartment over a pizza place, which has always been my dream. But or things like that. But anyway, the reason why I asked for this to be put on the survey is because we are coming up on a need to update our housing element. And before jurisdictions work on their housing element, the state sends down what's called a RHNA number, or a Regional Housing Needs Assessment number. It is a total number of dwelling units that each jurisdiction, so each county and city, needs to have available for development for that 6-year housing element planning cycle. We have not gotten those numbers yet, but I do anticipate it being a very robust number, because not only does it include numbers for future development, it also is going to include numbers that have been lost in housing stock through fires, floods, etc. And so that's why I asked for that survey question, to get a feel from the community to see if they would be open to more residential development options in our commercial areas, because we really don't have anything like that right now in our zoning ordinance, except for tiny little, in some areas you can have like a residential accessory structure. So this would be one option for us to meet those RHNA numbers. And across the board, all the planning areas have expressed strong interest in that type of mixed use. I was wondering if the LAPAC has any additional thoughts on that topic.
I have one, and that would be the harbor in the town of Nice, the Holiday Harbor. They're thinking about, it used to be residential. At one time, there was a set of manufactured homes on the one side, which the county took out. And I have heard that they're trying to put residential facilities, small, tiny homes in there. And so that I don't think people that I've talked to, and, I've talked to people about that question in town that didn't take the survey. They were not very happy about that. I did remind them that people did live there at one time, but most people did want more access to apartments above a building already there in town. Like there's one above Romy's, or it's called Lake Barbecue now, but there's an apartment building on top of Romy's.
Oh, they changed Romy's? I didn't. Okay.
Yeah, I know it's got a new name. Everybody.
Yeah.
But it would be nice if we had that in town. But, I don't know if people, I know they don't want just random things going up.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. This isn't necessarily random things going up. It would still be within one thing that I'm looking for, and the way these sort of things translate to planning, local area plans, is if it's a priority, if it's welcomed as a concept in that community. That's how these things are going to translate. And so the fact that people have been saying, yeah, we're really interested in mixed use development options, it'll translate that way. But we'll still have some regulations to make sure that it's not, like the Wild West. We still do have density allowances and things like that too. So yeah. Okay. I totally appreciate that. It's smart growth, it's growth but still it's important to keep what is also voiced by this community and all our communities is the small town character, the rural nature of our towns as well. Yeah. So we'll make sure we keep that in mind too. Good. Anything else about mixed use? If not, we'll move on to ag diversification. Diane, did you have a mixed use comment? Okay. Ag diversification, that was question number 5. And that also came from staff because in the last few years, we've gotten a number of inquiries, and it's increased recently with the struggling wine industry to allow for other types of uses on agricultural zoned parcels, including wineries. Recently, the state has they've changed their regulations to allow microbreweries to also be located where wineries are, but we do not allow that yet in our zoning ordinance. Additionally, some of the wineries themselves have been asking if they could set up distilleries so that they could use their grape product for a more diverse type of finished products. We don't have anything like that in our general plan or zoning ordinance because we've just never really thought about it as a community before. And so that's why question number 5 was in every survey. And across the board, everybody has said, yeah, we're good with diversification. It's been a very strong yes. But the details then, because it asked a follow-up question, and it was really surprising to me because it wasn't something I was expecting. But with every single planning area, the people were really interested in youth agriculture and wilderness education. They're like, yeah, distilleries, microbreweries, whatever. Yeah, that's fine. But what we really want is youth agriculture and wilderness education. So that's totally awesome. We do have some wilderness education programs already starting in the community, but I was wondering what this LAPAC has, if they've heard anything about youth ag or wilderness ed that we should note.
Yes, I'm, connected with the school district. And so definitely, there's a lot of interest in angling and, like you said, just outdoor. And I mean, how that builds into your plan, I'm not sure, but I know that the community has interest in continuing to educate kids about the outdoors and how to make a living on the outdoors.
Good. Excellent. What else?
I think, 4-H. I think there's a lot of kids that on this side of the lake that are in 4-H, and that would be nice if we did have areas still available for them. Because I know there's a couple of cows on Highway 20 right now that are getting ready for next fair, and she sold them at the fair this last summer. So we do have kids that have animals in town here in Nice, and it'd be cool if we did have areas for that, some education to go with it, like we had when I was in school. When I was in school, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
That's a good point. We do currently in our zoning ordinance have some allowances for 4-H animals where we would not allow other animals in our residential areas. So, but we could take a look at that in our more rural areas to see what we could do as well. Yeah, Betsy.
Are you aware of the farm on the high school campus that is available for kids who don't have zoned land around their houses? They can.
Is there a farm in Upper Lake? I know there's one in Kelseyville.
On the high school campus.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wow. And it's
the FFA animals. Yeah.
It's sponsored by the Alternative Energy and Sustainable Agriculture Academy. It has its own well, and the county water district is teaching the kids how to monitor water quality and volume. It's solar powered. It's really a dynamite setup.
What? That's amazing.
Well, that's a big deal in Upper Lake. We have.
I've never even heard of that. That's totally cool. Wow. Okay.
The current ordinance for chickens, I remember there was a problem with that. And I know people, with the prices of eggs now, people have a couple of chickens, they're getting away with it, but it would be kind of nice if we could have a couple of chickens, in certain areas, if they weren't roosters or anything like that. But
I think that's a really good point, because when I started working in planning, it was an unspoken departmental policy, or it was a slightly spoken departmental policy that because eggs were expensive, and I think this was like right after the recession from 2008. Rick Howell at the time said, up to 6 chickens in residential area, fine. We're not gonna send code enforcement after it, but no roosters. And so, it's really hard to have those kind of unspoken policies. So I think that maybe addressing that formally would be a really good idea.
That was the first thing I thought of was his chickens, and you can always eat the rooster, before he gets.
Yes, but before you think you're going to eat that rooster, you're going to have 9 of your neighbors all calling code enforcement to ask for somebody to go get that rooster.
That's when you eat them. Yeah. That's when you eat them.
Yeah, so I don't see us moving on the rooster policy, but the chickens.
No, you never know what they're going to be when they pop out.
Yeah, right. That's true. Okay. So let's see. Other uses expanded in Upper Lake or Nice. We had a strong showing in the survey for housing. And then mixed use, so commercial and housing. Does the LAPAC have any ideas of other things that they'd like to see expanded? They're in the written comments, which I always find like just as interesting as the numbers. There was this really good one about a civic center, development of a civic center, and we saw that in a lot of the different planning areas, looking for kind of community gathering centers. Right. Places where the community can come together. And Civic Center is really good because it kind of actually touches not just expansion of like a community feel, but also in times of emergency. You know, we're working on community resilience centers that in times of emergency can act like charging or cooling or heating, things like that centers. But then in the off season are community centers where people go and hang out and you can get internet connectivity services or something like that on a regular basis. So I was glad to see that written in, but I'm interested to hear what you all think. As far as
I know, Betsy's talked about that a million times. Yeah, Betsy has talked about that a million times. I know, I've talked to her. We've tried to get the old Sons of Italy building to be that back in the day, but didn't happen. But if we could just hook up with a building that's already existing, maybe put some solar on it or something, so it's not so expensive, because when you have a building like that, it's for the county to keep up too. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful idea, and boy, did we need it a couple of times around here with the fires and wind.
Well, the Oddfellows Hall is starting to do its remodeling or repainting, whatever. It's a big project.
Right.
The Oddfellows have been really diligent at doing fundraising. It's right there on Main Street. It would be an excellent location, except for when it floods, because it's right in the flood level. But other than that, it would be a terrific place. And you could talk to Tamar over there at the Mendocino Distillery. The Oddfellows over in Mendocino County have been sponsoring that project. It would be an excellent location.
That's cool.
Also, what else? Going to be there's also a new building being built by the tribe over where Seeley's was, where they tore down all the trees. There's going to be a new community center in there. I don't know if anybody knows. Oh. Yeah, they talked about that at the last meeting.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to be a while, but
I guess that's a good use. Broke my heart to see those trees come down. I think that's the most beautiful orchard in the whole county. But community center, that sounds pretty good too.
Yeah.
So
nice. Okay, what else? What else would you like to see?
While there's no resilience center in the Nice and Upper Lake area,
there is two in Lucerne.
Lucerne. I say Nice or Upper Lake. Sorry, I'm in an open room. I agree with Betsy. However, there is another location that the Grange, the old Grange on Government.
I was just thinking that too, but I don't know who has it now. But that's a fabulous building. It has a stage, a kitchen. Remember the breakfasts they used to have? Oh my God!
The Grange is run by the state, California, and that was the issues we had with it when it was recently broken into, and I think Marcus at Code had to go out with his group, and he told me they had to fix it because I've had I was working on that project myself with the Western Region Town Hall. Over the last few years, there's been garbage left there, but I think Code has gone in there because I've talked to one of the neighbors, but I think it's still run by the state, and I think they're allowed to sell the building in I forgot how many years it takes them to sell the building, but that is an option. Yeah, 7 years. It's just crazy. But the woman that was in charge of that, I still have her information somewhere, but she stopped talking to me at some point. She did come to our meeting, and then this was over trying to resolve some of the issues the last couple of years, but it could be an option because it's not being used for anything.
So this is good because what I'm getting from this that I think we can translate into an area plan is one, yes, we definitely think community gathering centers are important. And two, we may want to look at reusing existing structures rather than creating something new. Those are priorities that can get translated into area plans that then follow up with implementation programs. So this is good. Thank you. Even though I don't think we need to call that lady from the Grange just yet, but but through this discussion,
well, she's not talking to Thomas, so we don't have to worry about.
Yeah,
but we're pulling.
Yeah.
From
I'm so glad you mentioned it, Tammy, because that was the first place I thought of. Because it's right on the highway, and it has a lot of parking. A lot of people used to go there. I mean, it was a venue at one time. For the FFA, everybody used it. It was a great venue.
Good. We're going to skip question 7 and 8 because they have to do with do we want to change the planning area boundaries? So it was talking about communities that should be included or shouldn't be included. But then 9 starts talking more about special study areas. And so I think we can talk about actually.
Wait.
Go ahead, Betsy.
Sorry, I want to talk.
No,
about
jump in. You're good.
Boundaries.
What's that?
All right, because since we don't have a map showing the community development boundary, which is the focus of the commercial development, infill, residential sort of stuff.
You mean the community growth boundaries? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the community growth boundary, which is designated somewhere in the general plan. We don't have that. And so to me, the community growth boundary, which is focused on the town of Upper Lake, is the center of this conversation. The other areas are special study areas: Blue Lakes, Bachelor Valley, Lake Pillsbury, and Nice. So, that's something it's really important. I don't think we should skip this.
So what are you thinking if they're each special study areas? What were you envisioning would be included in those?
Well, none of them have. Well, Nice has a virtual community growth center, a commerce and activities, retail activities. But if we look at the criteria for a community growth boundary, it has to have public services, it has to have commerce. I think it has to have utilities, centers, and that kind of thing. Again, Nice is a funny animal. I personally believe that Nice should be part of the shoreline communities because it's really shoreline-based tourism, based on the shoreline and so forth. And I would personally like to see that change. But as far as Blue Lakes and Lake Pillsbury, they don't have those kind of community growth boundary criteria. That's what makes them special study areas. The town of Upper Lake does.
Okay.
I don't want to get lost in that shoreline. It's huge. That other map. I just remember it being really big. If Nice was hooked to that.
Well, it is really big, and the Clear Lake Oak side has asked for a separate plan, a separate area plan. I would want a separate area plan for Nice and Lucerne. I would think those two would go together. So
yeah, separate area plans is not in that's not in our scope of work for Lake County 2050. That would have to be something that the Board of Supervisors would need to figure out in the future. But we're not going to split. We can't split planning areas, but we can amend some.
I thought you said they had the option of changing the area plan boundaries.
We do. We can amend area plan boundaries, but we're not going to create new planning areas. So, like, what I mean by that is, like, say we're Upper Lake Nice and Blue Lakes. We could go Upper Lake Nice, Blue Lakes, and Lucerne, but we're not going to go Upper Lake, Blue Lakes, and then Nice, Lucerne in 2 separate planning areas.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, that might make more sense to include Lucerne with Nice and Upper Lake because they're very different than the eastern side of the District 3.
And that is the exact discussion that we need to have as LAPAC to decide if we want to change those boundaries, because we want it to reflect what we see as similar communities or that are inclusive.
Well, that's why
I remember that came up. It came up at the meetings and stuff that Lucerne shouldn't be with the other. Right? Didn't it come up? I remember when I was sitting there, somebody was saying something about Lucerne should be with Nice and Upper Lake. I don't know.
Well, I think that's a good option if you're not willing to have separate area plans. Because for one thing, the senior center is in Lucerne that serves all the rest of the communities on the western side of District 3.
Right.
Okay.
But yet their 2050 meeting was poorly attended.
The Lucerne one?
Mm-hmm.
The shoreline communities? Yeah.
Yes.
But then again, it was just last week. So some people they weren't able to do a quick enough turnaround. We went, Ruby and I went off of the doodle polls that we got, but yeah. So hopefully that will improve as we're going forward and they have time to do their schedule. I'll work with whoever shows up, but hopefully it's as many people as possible.
I meant the original 2050 convening.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I did too.
Yeah.
I did too. Yeah. I don't know about the other one.
All right. Let's see. Let's move on to the next one. So we keep having our discussions.
Maria?
Yeah. Oh, hey, Patty.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. I got into the meeting just a few minutes late. I didn't know whether we were going to discuss my land use out here. If not, I'm going to come to the in-person meeting on Thursday at the courthouse.
Patty, let's make sure we have some time tonight to talk about your project. In fact, let's just stop we're going to stop talking about the survey right now. One of the topics that come before LAPACs for decisions is the land use designation amendments. Now, these requests can come from staff in the department where we've seen an incompatible use over a few years and we think this would be a good change, or it could come from the public, could come from a property owner. And so those of you who don't know Patty Kelly, she's with Kelly's Camp, which is over on Scotts Valley Road. And Patty and I have been talking for years about changing uses of what used to be Kelly's Camp. And so she's bringing a land use designation amendment to the LAPAC for your recommendation to change Kelly's Camp, which was designated planned development commercial for campground. But now that it's not a campground, it's really challenging to develop anything on it because it has to be consistent with a campground. But there are things in the area, like the floodplain encompasses a lot of that entire parcel, making future development as a campground not viable as well. And so we've talked about over the last few years, changing Kelly's Camp zoning back to rural lands, which is what it was before, and possibly ag on the low part. So actually, Patty, why don't you give them a little bit of background information, and I am going to pull up the GIS so we can all take a look at that property while you're talking.
Okay, I prepared a little statement. If I could just read it, I'm a little nervous, so bear with me. The property, like Maria said, is currently zoned resort commercial, and I'm requesting a land use zoning change to rural residential or rural land. Both would allow residential structures, and the property currently has 2 residential structures occupied by my son Matt and me. I've lived on this property for over 45 years, and my son Matt was born here.
Oh.
I don't know if you know a little history. Can I continue?
Please go right ahead.
Can everybody? Okay, my husband Bob Kelly purchased the property in March of 1977, and I later met him, and we were married in 1979. The property had been developed as a campground and was operated by the previous owner as a KOA until that previous owner lost the KOA franchise. The property had been abandoned for 7 years when Bob purchased it. He rehabilitated the property and opened for business in the summer of 1978, and he operated Kelly's Camp until the summer of 2014, when he was diagnosed with a malignant brain tumor. I quit my career and closed the campground business to care for him at home full time until his death in September of 2015. I didn't know what I would do as all of this happened so fast. Then my elderly mother needed help, and I cared for her until her death in March of 2022. My son and I were still living in the 2 residences, and in 2023, we decided to sell the property. Unfortunately, this decision has been more difficult than anticipated. There are numerous issues that essentially prohibit the campground from opening as a profitable business ever again. The property has been extensively reviewed by the commercial realtor in Lake County, Jim Milulo, by Rick Orwig, a senior appraiser with Orwig Valuation Services, and of course by myself and my son Matt, as we've been the longtime residents and owners of the property. The consensus of all these knowledgeable parties and the highest and best use of the property would be rural residential or rural land. The most pertinent information for this reasoning I'm going to review. The property, like I said, is currently zoned commercial resort. The zoning designation is much more restrictive than other commercial zoning designations, and permitted use of the subject's zoning resort commercial includes hotels, motels, campgrounds, and restaurants. Considering the subject's location in this very rural area, most resort uses allowed by the CR zoning, such as hotels, motels, and restaurants, would not even be viable. Although my subject property contains nearly 85 acres of land, most of the site consists of rugged mountainous terrain, and Scotts Creek runs the length of the property. Much of the level portion of the site lies within the floodplain or a regulatory floodway. And according to, I believe it's Max Stockton at the Lake County Planning Department, the area designated as floodway is not buildable. It's also important to note that when we had the property operating as a campground, the campsites could only be used during the summer months because of the Scotts Creek flooding issue. Another even more pervasive peril is wildfires, as we all know. The Mendocino Complex fire, which consisted of the ranch and river fires in 2018, became one of the largest fires in terms of acreage burning in California. My son and I were evacuated for 11 days, and we nearly lost the property to that inferno. I also want to mention that I don't believe my neighbors want it to be a campground again either, as they would not want to see campfires in this rural mountainous area. Electricity is currently available to the site, including 20 amp and 30 amp feeds to the 48 campsites. It's noted, however, that many of today's recreational vehicles require 50 amp service to support the current technology, including air conditioning and all their electronic appliances. So resumption of the campground use would likely require upgrades or full replacement of existing electrical systems and accessory buildings at substantial cost. Considering the current trend, the subject may not compete well with other camping resorts that feature additional improvements such as cabins, cottages, meeting rooms, and food service facilities. It's been indicated to me from the planning department that a change to the land use zoning to one of the designations applicable to the adjoining properties would be considered. The designations include agriculture, rural lands, and rural residential. The most relevant use of the subject that is common to all of these designations is single-family residential use, which has effectively been the only use of the subject for the last 9+ years since my husband passed. It's also the use that is most consistent with all of the properties that surround my property. So that's background and a little history on it. So thank you for your time.
Thanks, Patty. So if everybody can see that property, the area that is in brown is the Resort Commercial General Plan land use designation for what was formerly Kelly's Camp. You can see the creek going through in the Resource Conservation blue streak going through that. But if I take off the general plan, you'll see the flood zone. There is no development allowed in that purple area. The red,
and everything on the right side of that of Scotts Creek goes straight up into a mountain.
Right. So so there's the flood zone. I'm going to turn on the slope thing. So everything in green is 30% slope or above. So you can see how the flat area goes through kind of the creek area and then steep hills on either side. So taking that off, go back to the general plan. Above here is rural residential, but given the sloping areas, it's more compatible with rural lands, which you see to the other side of the highway, which also has those steep hills as well.
Right.
So, now we talked about for years, when you come in as a private property owner and you request a general plan amendment and a rezone, it's thousands of dollars and it takes a long time. And but what you could also do as an alternative is wait until projects like Lake County 2050 when we're updating our general plan, because part of that project is updating our general land use designation maps. And so that's why Patty's here tonight, making the request to the LAPAC. Does anybody have any questions from Patty? I'll stop sharing so we can see each other again. Does anyone have questions? Now, you don't have to make any recommendations today. We could also continue to discuss it in one of our in-person meetings if you wanted to do that, but any input you have right now would be great. Go ahead, Betsy.
Betsy. Well, I'm sorry, Betsy.
I would like to say that is one of the most beautiful spots in the world, and I hope that Patty is able to do what she wants to do as expeditiously as possible. She certainly deserves it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Betsy.
I just had
go
one
ahead.
question.
I just wanted to say
because I know you have the answer, Patty. I know you have the answer. Before your husband bought it, did you say that it was a different zone differently, or what was it zoned before? It was a.
That goes way back to more than I know. I don't know that answer. I just know that it was developed by a gentleman who did most of the development out here and ran it as I understand it, Campgrounds of America until he lost the franchise.
Okay.
But I mean, Maria may be able to look back on the records and see what it was zoned. I don't know.
It is a beautiful piece of property. I know where it is. It's just gorgeous, and I'm hoping that I really don't think of a campground is feasible with that flood zone. I don't know. I've been out there a couple of times. Yeah, that's just my opinion too. I go with Betsy, but
Patty,
go ahead, Thomas.
Oh, I just had a question, Patty. This is Thomas. Is that property the one with the swimming lagoon on it?
Yeah, the pond. Yes, that is my pond.
Yeah, I've ridden past there a lot, and on my bicycle on Scotts Valley going towards Blue Lakes. I've seen it active. I guess that was years ago, and then I've seen it not active, obviously, before the reasons you're showing us. Yeah, it's a beautiful area.
Yeah, I didn't ever run the campground. That was Bob's dream, and you know, he ran it full time. So I worked in town.
One thing about that area, I call it like a canyon because of the mountain range. I just love it. When I ride my bike through there, and if you drive through there, obviously you'll have the wind whips through that canyon. It's quite interesting, the topography and how I just mentioned that because when you're on your bicycle and you come out, I see the wind whipping through there. It's pretty cool. Anyway.
Well, I get the comment all the time.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a lovely, it is. Everybody says how beautiful it is. And right now I don't have people out here, but I sure have lots of animals.
Historically, when the county first assigned general plan land use designations as well as zoning districts, they did so a lot of the times based on the current use. So this property would have been zoned resort commercial from its beginning because of the long running campground use. But if it had not had that, it would have probably been within the rural lands, possibly the agricultural designations. Does anybody else have questions regarding changing this land use? Any input on that? Does anyone in the LAPAC today feel like you need additional information before you make a recommendation? Does anyone feel comfortable with the recommendation that that the land use revert back to what would be compatible, which would be rural lands and resource conservation? Does anyone on our LAPAC have any issue with that recommendation? Because if we're all good with it, then I don't really want to make Patty show up to another meeting if she doesn't have to.
Yeah, let's all put a thumbs up for her. Yeah.
Looks like we're good with that, Patty. You can consider that recommendation noted, and you'll see it reflected as we go forward with the project.
And you did a great presentation. Great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. If you have any questions, I'm available.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Patty. Okay, so getting back to, thank you. Have a good night. Getting back to the second survey. How should the county preserve small town character? The top results in the survey were ensure future development is planned at a walkable neighborhood scale, and establish and maintain vibrant, convenient, and attractive community spaces, destinations, and events. Some of the write-in comments that jumped out were make the residents of Nice clean up their eyesore front yards, tear down old buildings that are falling apart, bring in some new businesses, create recreational use of our levee systems. So what is the LAPAC? What do y'all think about how can the county preserve small town character?
Well, this is a passion of me, and I know Deb for sure, especially for Nice. Aesthetically, Nice is a train wreck right now in some parts of it. And I think the abatement and the code enforcement issues have to tie into this, that we enforce exactly the eyesoreness and the continued going after the people that are creating these issues, especially down the main corridor, throughout the neighborhoods too, of course. But yeah, aesthetically, Nice is. I ride my bike, as you guys know, I talk about it all the time. But I ride it through Nice, and we drive through Nice, but you really see things when you're riding your bike. And I go to Lucerne, and I go to Upper Lake, and Nice. I get to Nice, and it's just like, I can point out, I don't want to talk about the specifics, but yeah, it needs to have a heavy duty enforcement going on some of these real bad situations.
I have noticed that things, I know Thomas and I, but I have noticed.
Hold on, Betsy, right after Deb.
I have noticed.
I would really
noticed that.
Just a second, Betsy, right after Deb.
I have noticed that code enforcement has been doing a lot of work in Nice. I know that it doesn't look like it to some people that, might draw. But if you have a business there, you can see a lot of change. And there's one particular property that it looks really messy, but I know that there are at least 50 cars out of there. No, I'm just kidding. But, there's at least 20 cars that have been removed off that property. And it's, but we have some historical building. My building is the old firehouse. We have the old skating rink behind the park. That's a beautiful building. A bunch of people did cinder block buildings back in the 40s and 50s in Nice. And I just hoping that we could keep all those buildings really nice because they look good. Those ones look good. But we really have to keep an eye on the ones that have elders living in them and their kids are moving in with them. And so that's how they get messy. That's what I've been keeping study on Nice. I've noticed that the places that are getting nasty that Thomas is talking about started with elder abuse cases.
Interesting. Okay, go ahead, Betsy.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very, very concerned about the Holiday Harbor. It is a blight on the shoreline, and we have imperative requirements to restore the shoreline. We have millions of dollars in shoreline protection and shoreline restoration programs. I know it's privately owned by an investor who basically uses it as a tax write-off. The walls of the seawall are deteriorating. The bottom of the harbor is filled with sediment, and it's become a de facto hitch spawning area that is monitored by Ben Ewing from the Department of Fish and Wildlife. We had a redevelopment agency spent over $500,000 on two separate architectural concepts for building a multi-use retail, commercial, tourism center there, and was one of the reasons why they took out those trailer units that were along the western side of the harbor. The eastern side was an RV campground. It has all those connections for RV campsites, but it is just a horrible mess, and it is not adding to the benefit of the town itself in any way. It's a lot of drunks hang out there. A lot of people, it's just really a degraded area. But it's also very important for us to help heal the shoreline of the lake. And so that's a big problem in my book.
Betsy, that's changed actually in the last year. That was it's been bought out by what's the company called? Swim. They actually cleaned it.
Solano Women.
Yeah, they cleaned it up. I was at their opening event, and it actually looks a lot better.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, you haven't seen it since the organization's taken it over. So I was real happy to see that part of their plan. So I think you're...
I'll check with them, but we have to look back at the fact that we've invested, like I said, at least $500,000 in development plans for it. So whoever owns it has to help cure the shoreline degradation that is affecting the quality of the water in the lake. So I'll check with those folks. Thank you, Thomas.
You're welcome. Yeah, it looks a lot better. I mean, it's where it was at. Should have never been sold, as far as I'm concerned. And that part of it's looking better. So I was really happy to see it. But
I'm hoping that that you've noticed that property's been mentioned twice in your notes, Medea.
Hey, this meeting's recorded. Yep. I noticed.
Okay, good.
We're not missing any data.
Okay, good. Because we would, all of us in Nice, as the mayor of Nice, no, I'm just kidding. But, people come by and ask me what's going on over there. That was a vibrant center of town. People would take their boats, go to the restaurant, come to the hardware store. They'd go to the store to get, bait. It was a fabulous, and, I'm not even going to say anything about the Frosty being gone, but it was all there. It was vibrant. And then what Betsy was saying about it getting the blight right, but they are cleaning it up. But we would like to know what's going in there, and it's almost like a secret. I don't know. It's beautiful. It looks gorgeous right now. Thomas is right. They have a garden in there, and they've got.
Is there anything? Great. Is there anything else in general for LAPAC input on what the county can do regarding preservation of small town character? I don't want to spend too much of our meeting just talking about one thing. Go ahead, Diane.
Well, I was thinking about things like that are not huge to do, but just as a business closes, they need to, be able to close up their signage and, not have misleading information along the roadways. There's some small things that can be done to preserve the corridors and the way that the county is perceived, and obviously the culture. You're talking about culture, so I'm trying to get to. If we feel like the county takes care of us, then each community is going to have some pride, and that could be the code enforcement and the compliance areas. But I feel like sometimes a business closes and it just kind of starts to deteriorate. And anyway, so that's some of the areas I feel like could be easily or somewhat easier to give it a facelift, which is not a heavy lift.
Okay. And Tammy in the chat entered no Dollar General in Upper Lake. But what's interesting is some of the input was, we do know that we need some of our larger stores and we need some shopping options too. So maybe there was a little softening towards more retail, just no big box. What's the LAPAC thing about that?
I would like to recommend that all new retail development be focused on the Nice Lucerne Cutoff designated land use area for that purpose, which is anchored by the Century Market. There are light industrial businesses on Stokes Lane. There is property across the road that is possibly available. I don't want to see any big manufacturing or what do you call them, chain stores or any of that kind of stuff come into Upper Lake. I want it to be just local home businesses.
Okay, so how that reflects in an area plan then is maybe when we're taking a look at our land use designation changes map meeting, that's when we say, okay, we want the community commercial or the larger, more regional services in this area, and we'll change the land use designations for that area while keeping the main streets the more local commercials, like you're serving kind of your neighborhoods, with the exception of course of some of the highway commercial though, because we've got a lot of travelers going through 20. So what do y'all think about that?
We have 2 in town every day at part. That's Good. A lot of people for a small town. So and if we do designate an area, make sure that there's a bus hub for those people. That there are lots of people who do not have cars. I'm talking about elders that do not have cars and take the bus. So if we are going to do little areas, well, hopefully we'll have like little bus places, for people to get off the bus. I see them getting on the bus every morning and going to work.
That's a very good point. And it actually is a great segue to our next subject, which is improving roadway safety for all users. I know Thomas is going to have some input on this one. Mostly across the board in all planning areas, there has been a strong support for encouraging multimodal transportation safety. Go ahead, Thomas.
Yeah, well, I'm on the Pedestrian Bicycle Advisory Committee, and we just had another meeting, but the big plan for that corridor is that it's going to happen in 2030, 2031, and it's a longer term. In fact, I'm going to be tomorrow at the North Shore Business Association meeting with the State Assembly Aguilera. Cecilia. And I'm going to be asking to see if we can maybe get I don't know if she can get those funds expedited quicker. That'd be nice. To calm the roadway. We are having currently the crosswalks. We have 3 of them going up with rapid lighting, which you probably have seen, which is fantastic. We need it. It's a first step towards more safety. But we do need bike lanes, which they're planning to put on everything that we do on the roadway. If they're going to put a new roadway in or make it better, we need bike lanes. And I've asked them to use green paint on some areas too. I was just in Napa Valley Sunday riding it, and some of their crosswalks they have the green paint. But we really need to pay attention to the people that like. I work with a gentleman named Danny Wynn. Some of you probably know Danny. He's on Strong Towns, which is a non-for-profit. And we talk about improving the roadway situation, but making it safe for walking and cycling or biking for everyone. And I think that's we need to really work on that. And that's why I wanted to join the LAPAC, to be an advocate for continued forward on that idea. So
good stuff. What is the green paint? I'm not familiar with that.
You probably have seen it in some areas. It just helps highlight the bike lane towards traffic. They've had it on the Silverado Trail in some areas that are crossing over some crossroads like to Yountville, and I just thought that I thought it was so they have it in all sorts of places, and
have it in Petaluma.
Petaluma. Okay. It's just it helps highlight that lane. For cycling
for bikers as opposed to just a side. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It just gives a better visual.
It's been interesting watching them put the crosswalks in. The guys from Caltrans are kind of scared of those big trucks. I'll just put it like that. They almost got hit a couple of times. Right by where there's a memorial for a kid that got killed right there.
Yeah, I had one go by me. It was a foot away the other day, going towards Lucerne.
Oh, I know.
So it's just crazy.
All right. 6:30, and they almost kill us every.
Yeah, that's good on transportation. Let's move on to how the county should protect, preserve, and manage historic and cultural resources. The top answer, which is pretty consistent with all planning areas, is prioritizing preservation and adaptive reuse. As well as areas that have identifiable cultural or historical significance. Do you guys have any thoughts on historic and cultural resources that you care to share? Don't just nod, Thomas. Go on.
Well,
I can't record a nod.
I know. Debbie's place. It's a beautiful building in Nice. She's right. She had her museum, and her building property is gorgeous. We want to keep that historic, Upper Lake especially. We love that aesthetic and that ambiance and that culture. That's why we want to keep it.
It's really a destination. It's a destination, People come here and stay at World Mart just to see Nice and Upper Lake. I'm telling you, they come to my store. They're going to they're going to Tallman, going shopping. I mean, they come here. They're not going to Lakeport or Clear Lake. They're coming here.
That's awesome.
Because of the old buildings and stuff.
There has been some talk at the county between community development and public services about kind of trying to revitalize the Heritage Commission to work on policies for maintenance or preservation and maintenance of historic structures. Is that anything that you've heard out and about in the community as a priority or as something that would be important? Betsy, you are typing loudly. Didn't mean to make you stop typing. Just wanted to let you know.
Maria?
All right. Anything about, yeah.
Maria?
Yes, ma'am.
This is, the signal is breaking up a little bit on the,
okay.
Sorry.
All right.
Stop typing. The signal. That's right. That's right.
Okay.
So yes,
Thank
the
you.
Heritage Commission, the Heritage Commission actually is involved in the Ely Stage Stop project over there in Kelseyville, and they could be really helpful to us to do that preservation of downtown Upper Lake. As I said, the Oddfellows Hall is being refurbished. We have other, some of those, like our library is a one-of-a-kind, extraordinarily beautiful Mediterranean structure that people should understand just how gorgeous that is. We have a couple of other unique things like Tony Olviera's compound, which used to have the ice house when the town had a slaughterhouse, and it had an ice house and had a sawmill. There are all kinds of locations that could be featured. There was a project that we did that put those little signs in front of buildings on Main Street there. We did it for the Upper Lake County, the Upper Lake Community Council, that explained the history of each of those buildings. I don't know if those signs are still there, but we have quite a bit of really good history there. The other thing is, I mentioned this, two things. I mentioned this at the Lakeport meeting. There was an Article 68 that was being sponsored. The escrow company there on the corner of 3rd and Forbes Street. I can't remember what it's called now. Now it's a different use. But anyway, this escrow company, some of the owners of the escrow company and the museum curators were trying to get historical status attached to certain buildings in the county, not necessarily associated with the state Heritage Commission, because if you have state heritage status, you can't change anything. So you can't bring it up to, there's lots of restrictions. We went through that over the discussion about how to restore the Oddfellows Hall. But the last thing I want to mention, I didn't mention yesterday, is that we also would like I and many others would also like to have recognition of ancestral native heritage and historical uses, such as some of those long trails between the area of Robinson Rancheria and even all the way over to Point Arena that go through Scotts Valley, on the way to Ukiah and so forth. I'd like to see, many people would like to see us feature some of those attributes that are there, still located in the community, but you don't see them because they're not noted. So those are my inputs. Thank you.
Cool. Wow. Good stuff. Anybody want to follow that, or should we move on to preserving open spaces and natural beauty?
I just want to add, they are still putting up the signs in downtown Upper Lake. However, they've changed a little. They're not as eccentric or as beautiful as the original ones, but they are still continuing to do that when new businesses come in. But my big thing, and maybe I should have mentioned it under traffic, but and I heard there was a crash this morning on Main Street in Upper Lake, but you can't see when you come out on Upper Lake, when you come like off of First Street to turn or to go straight onto First Street through Main Street, you can't see because of they've made it so hard that you can't turn, and it's just not, it's not a good situation. But right now, the reason you can't see is because of the bushes that they put there.
You're talking about those awful
in the bulb outs?
The bulb outs. Those stupid bulb outs. You could just tear those and get rid of those.
You can't see.
They're horrible.
And that was part of the original.
Horrible.
That was that was when redevelopment went through and did it.
Redevelopment project.
It was a traffic diet. Yeah, to get people to not fly down Main Street. Yeah.
So now they're really flying, and now we can't pull out in front of them, otherwise we're going to get hit.
Right.
And I do need to say that
it's bad. It's really bad. And
sorry, I just wanted to shout out to Mr. March for cleaning off the bridge after the Upper Lake Town Hall meeting a couple months ago. You got your crew out there and they cleaned the bridge, and I wanted to publicly thank him. So they looked a lot better, except for now there's graffiti on the bridge. So. Can't win.
Hey, I saw that Jim Iulio just joined us. Jim, I just wanted to let you know Patty's already been here. We heard her. We agreed with her recommendation, and it is going to get carried forward as a recommendation from this LAPAC to change her land from resort commercial to rural lands and resource conservation. I know Jim's been working with Patty. That's why I just did that. Stepping out just to give you that update and bring you up to speed, Jim. All right, get rid of bulb outs. Got that. Let's move on the survey to what should be done for illegal dumping and other nuisance issues.
Oh, God.
And just a quick time check. We have 18 minutes.
Oh, God.
Policy-wise, what are the priorities for Upper Lake and Nice regarding the illegal dumping and other nuisance issues? And one thing I should tell you, the roadmap task force that focused on Clear Lake Oaks for 2 years, that was a board pilot program, changed. And with this fiscal year for the next 3 years, code enforcement is focusing on Nice and Lucerne. And it's called the COPTER program, Community-Oriented Policing and Targeted Restoration. So code enforcement will be in Nice and Lucerne. Sheriff's office will be all over the North Shore corridor, doing their whack-a-mole, but focusing on Nice and Lucerne as well. So you should continue to see benefits from those concentrated staff resources over the next few years in the Nice and Lucerne area. So with that being said, conceptually or policy-wise, what would you like to see maintained or done by the county regarding illegal dumping and nuisance issues? And I'll just tell you that the consistently across all planning areas, there are two things. One, hold people accountable to clean up their crap. And then two, come alongside with some supportive programs that'll help our elderly and our low-income residents to help clean up their crap.
Okay.
What else?
I think one of the big areas that I see is the parking lot of the Upper Lake Park. There's people that, spend the night there and it's not enforced. It's, and not just for a night, for days on end. And you'll see a mobile home or motorhome will come and be there for months or, a long time. And
okay, good. So discouraging homelessness in the open spaces. Spaces.
This is a big topic for me because some of you know, the Nice cutoff I adopted 7-8 years ago to clean up, which needs to be cleaned up constantly. But the reason I got into that was because it was just accumulating, and I don't know what we can do. We've talked about this with my volunteer crew over and over again about what makes people throw trash, and I know to do it in other counties. But I went to Reading, and I was riding up there. I don't know if you know where the Turtle Bay Bridge. I don't know if you've been to that section of Reading. They have a beautiful walkway, trail walk, and cycling walk. And I saw very little trash on the ground, and I even talked to one of the citizens and told him how great it was, because I'm, So it's a cultural issue in this county. I'm talking about our county. I know it happens at other places, but let's focus on us. I don't know what it is going through that corridor and other places, of course, that bring people to throw trash or it comes out of the back of their trucks when they're going to the dump, to accept that I see it in front of people's homes and they don't go out there and clean it up. I don't get it. I don't know. It's a big monster, and some of it has to do with enforcement. A lot of it has to do with enforcement. You got to hold them accountable. And culturally, how do we change that? Do we go to our high schools, maybe our middle schools, have a program in place to teach these young people trash isn't good. Maybe get them involved in helping cleaning it up with me. It's a big monster, and it's very
so support educational outreach, support some cleanup days. Good.
Yes.
What else?
Yeah.
They're good.
Maria, just a quick question.
Hey, Angela.
Hey. So, the flock cameras that they use in some areas for illegal dumping sites, does that information go to code enforcement, or is that being captured anywhere?
Good question. I think that goes to the sheriff's office. Okay. I think they were using some animal cameras, GoPros, or I don't know, something like that. I'm not sure that we've used flock cameras for illegal dumping yet.
Supervisor Crandall's used them around the Borax Lake area, Spring Valley, and so I just didn't know. I guess I can ask him where that information goes, but that might be another option for sites that constantly get visited.
Yes. Yeah, I can ask Marcus.
I do think it's Sheriff's Department.
Yeah, because typically that's to catch.
It does go to the Sheriff's
license plate stuff.
It does go to the Sheriff. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah. Okay.
I can tell you that the license plate recognition is what that is. So if they see a vehicle at a location where illegal dumping happened, they can look at what time frame it was and then check out the license plates of the vehicles and try to tie it to
You're right.
But it does not take photographs of the driver.
Right. Okay, and also that was one of the write-in answers on this survey too, was to put cameras in high places to catch chronic illegal dumping. But we also have, when possible, sometimes we'll find a bunch of trash that we came across this trash that was a complaint in the middle of somebody's orchard, and it had like school report cards and like all this stuff that we ended up just going to that person's house saying, hey, it would be great if you went and cleaned up your trash that you just dumped in that orchard. So we do try to hold people accountable when we can track them down. Anybody else have something on illegal dumping? If not, we're going to move on to healthy food because we're down to 12 minutes. And anything that we don't cover. Go ahead, Deb.
Just remind people that they can get rid of 2 giant items with their garbage service a year.
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
All right. Too bad we didn't have garbage service. Mandatory.
Don't have universal garbage. Yep. Am I hearing that as a priority?
Yeah.
You are a LAPAC person.
Please.
I agree.
At least landlords. At least start with the landlords.
Rentals.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Good. Okay. Access to healthy food. I'll tell you the winner of the survey option was expand local food access and ag by supporting and encouraging farmers markets, urban farming, community gardening, food forests, and similar activities. What say you, LAPAC? Anything for that one?
Gosh.
Join the Food Policy Council.
Yeah. What would they do?
Just more of this, let their voice be heard.
Okay. So in area plan language, that would be support collaborative planning efforts to increase local access to food, something like that. That sounds kind of vague. Anything else?
I think that's too, I think that's too broad. One of the things we have to do is be realistic about why people are not gardening. It's because of the cost of water, and water itself is a critical factor in home gardening. I said this yesterday. We used to have a hunger task force would teach canning classes every year and help people get the equipment and the jars and all that sort of thing, and then get plant species from the Mendocino horticulture program or some of the other plant growers. We have nurseries that can do this, but people don't have water. They can't afford the water. So if you were able to create a grant program that would provide some of that incentive or something, maybe that would help.
What do you think about the idea of food forests?
I love that, actually, but
the only reason why I asked that is because typically when we're on a drought and people can't use their water in their yards, community parks still get water because they're known as community gathering spaces.
Right.
What do you think about that, Betsy? Or anybody?
Well, okay, I'll jump in.
That'd be a great feature for homelessness.
So I want to use the example of the old feed mill garden in Upper Lake. It's a huge property on 2nd Street that for years the Hunger Task Force had raised beds. They still have them. The school was supposed to take it on. I mean, it's great. We had a party and people came. We had probably 30 people in the garden. And then 2 weeks later, when, people make the commitment, they just don't follow through. I was basically in tears some nights because I'd have to go pick the food. It'd take me 3 hours to pick the food. Then I had to find a place to go take it to. And I mean, I would love to see those work. And I feel like we've attempted, but it takes more energy than I have anymore.
Right. Bigger than one person for sure.
Maybe if you replace a tree in a park, it could be an apple tree or something instead of a palm tree. Because I don't know what those palm trees are doing down there at the park that much. Plums are kind of messy.
Yeah, really, Debbie, we could get rid of all the palm trees. But we also, what we should look for is an organization that could help coordinate that, like the 4-H or some boys and girls club, or people services. They have those great landscaping crews. Something where every garden gets visited every day. Make sure the water system's working. Provide shade in the summertime, because one of the reasons people don't go out and do gardening is because it gets so doggone hot and you can't be outside to do the gardening. Winter gardens are very feasible here in many microclimates on the North Shore. There's lots of ways we could encourage this, but we need some sort of a parent group, maybe the Resource Conservation District. I don't know, but you need an organizing body to help make it work all around the areas.
Good. I think we've talked about the other ones, sort of hitting on them on other ones. How should the county support a healthy local economy? We kind of already talked about that one too, didn't we? Okay, let's go on to wildfire.
Oh, gosh.
I know, right? I want to make sure we hit wildfire and flood, because those are big. Go ahead, Deb.
Abatement for people who are not cutting their, they're cutting after 10 o'clock. That's the sheriff's or fire department and the sheriff, and people who are not even cutting. I mean, it's crazy, some of the growth. And
that was the top two responses, was 1, enforce the code, and 2, come alongside and help elderly and low-income people meet the code. Yeah. Connor, you've been very quiet. Do you have anything you want to say?
Nope.
Okay. All right. What else about wildfire jumps out? In some of the written comments, something that leaped out at me was new building designs for small multifamily residential occupation to enable older and disabled persons to inhabit comfortable home-like environments. I kind of liked the innovative housing ideas, clustering. We really like to cluster our residential areas. It makes it a little more defensible. Actually, Paul, you can jump in and disagree with me. But any other ideas on wildfire except like the two main priorities, which are enforce the code and help people meet the code?
No, I really like the cluster idea because you can have a property owner who's responsible for clearing around the property. It's a lot easier than having 20 separate landowners that you have to wrangle. Yeah. So I do like the clustering idea.
Good. That is good. Another one was making sure that any future subdivisions have more than one egress and ingress so that people have multiple ways of escape. Maintain public landscapes as demonstration gardens for fire resistance planting. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Am I exciting anybody's imagination? Anybody want to jump in? Cool. Isn't that cool? That's good stuff. All right, then we're going to move on to flood. Oh, go ahead, Betsy.
I have to speak up.
Yes, ma'am.
No, please. I have to speak up on behalf of mobile home park residents. We do not have 30 feet of dispensable space. We do not own the land. We cannot control what the property managers do. We have no evacuation routes necessarily. We don't have evacuation plans unless you force the management to give it to you. We have disabled people. We have all those mobile homes are up off the ground about a good 2 feet. Many of them without ramps to get out. There's a whole raft of special concerns about every mobile home park in this county. And so
that's a really good point.
Wildfire, that is a big concern of mine.
And doesn't that go back to the landlords?
I live in the mobile home park in Upper Lake.
But that goes back to the landlords again. We were talking about that garbage. Yeah. No.
So one, just to add to the complexity
area
of managing that, yeah, I totally agree. But they're also overseen by state. So, Paul, do you have any idea? Is there any talk at the state level that you're aware of regarding wildfire mitigation in mobile home parks?
I haven't heard anything specifically related to mobile home parks. The Zone 0 is what is really going to be the push here coming up. So I think it's just mobile home parks are a challenge because the proximity of each structure to themselves, the lack of interior fire sprinklers on all that stuff is a personal passion of mine that I think we kill a lot of people in this community without having those. And the other is just the standards that those are built to, and they're not current. You're talking 20, 25 years old structure. So I have not heard anything on the state side regarding manufactured home and defensible space.
I would really like to see a priority be entered in countywide, if not just in our local area plans regarding trying to figure out what we can do for fire mitigation, because even if it's not wildfire, say one mobile home catches on fire with faulty electrical or something, and you could have, that seems like it could be a situation that gets out of control pretty quick with them so close together.
I don't think you could be, personally, I don't think you could be in a more hazardous structure than a manufactured home. Statistically, in this county, we have more fatalities in manufactured homes and trailers than we do any other structure. And that is because the standard that they're built to at the time they're built to, and no fire suppression is required interior, which is fine if you are building that and you're a 40-year-old person with a family. But as soon as you move out to someone who's 80 years old and is in a wheelchair, they're now stuck in the back of that structure, and they burn 3 to 4 times faster than a normal stick-built house. it's horrible. We have fatalities in this county every year as just related to those kind of structures. So I understand the affordability factor, but they're just hazardous.
Well, I would like to say that for low fixed income retired seniors, that is one of the few affordable housing dwellings that exist, and many people buy them without knowing all of those risks. So I think a lot of it has to do with coming up with county programs that incorporate the out of county ownership of the parks with their fire protection and fire prevention support. There's got to be a way to do this, and the state housing and community development department now has a recovery division, which can work with the Office of the State Fire Marshal's community planning department, and they should be able to come up with something that makes it possible to support the people that live in these mobile home parks. We don't have any way to go anywhere else.
No, I'm sympathetic with the affordability factor. It's just I have to look at it from a fire safety point of view, and I don't know what we can do as far as clearances around it, but maybe there's something we need to do as far as a fire resistive retaining wall around the exterior to reduce the spread of ember cast. But as you've seen in the cache fire, once we get fire inside those manufactured home parks, it goes house to house, conflagration style, super fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're well aware of that.
Yeah, that's a serious topic. Okay, so we have 3 questions left on the second survey, and I just didn't want to rush it, but I also promised you guys we'd be here for 90 minutes. So how about this? We're going to have our second virtual meeting. I'm not sure when. It depends on how quickly you get that doodle poll stuff back to me. And at that next virtual meeting, I would recommend that we take up flood risk, emergency preparedness, and dealing with extreme temperatures. I'd like to hear what you all want to have, the ideas that you have. I want to make sure that we get that captured, and I don't want to rush you through it. So let's hold on to those for the next virtual meeting, as well as the main point of the next virtual meeting, which is to talk about policies, what we're going to retain and what we're going to throw out from the existing area plan. So I'd like to give you homework. Take a look between now and that next meeting. Just scroll through the Upper Lake Nice area plan and look at the segments that are sort of at the end of each of the sections. You'll see policies, objectives, and implementation plans. Take a look at those, because we're going to go over them at our next meeting to see what we want to keep, what we want to throw out, and anything that you might have thought of that we may want to add. That is our next meeting. Let's see, did I cover everything? Yes, I think I did. Everything that else that's happening this week. If you know any Spanish speakers, please have them join us tomorrow at St. Mary's in Lakeport. Please pencil in your calendar attending Thursdays and possibly Mondays in-person meeting for our planning area boundary amendment discussion. 5 o'clock at board chambers. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, Betsy.
I have one more comment. I looked at the map that's available from the website.
It's the wrong one, huh? I just noticed that when we guys were talking. I'm sending that email out right now. I'm so sorry. I asked them, and they're like, yeah, we got that up on the website. And I didn't even think to check to see if it was the actual right map. It's not.
Well, it is a map of the area, but it's not zoomable. I can't go into detail and match up the streets and roads in the community growth boundaries. It's not usable to me to make decisions.
So for that, if you need to zoom into granular, because it is a PDF, use the GIS system. I can't get a GIS system set up on that quickly. Thanks, Paul.
What time is the Spanish meeting tomorrow?
Spanish meeting is at St. Mary's in Lakeport at just a second. Let me double check. That sounds wrong now that I'm about to say it. 6. It's at 6.
Okay. Thank you. I'll try to get some people there.
And we'll have pizza.
Oh,
I read that first.
Yeah, right?
Con salsa.
You said 5 to 6:30.
Yes.
That's the other meeting, Betsy.
Maria,
Yes.
when you started the meeting,
This one,
you said it would be 5, huh?
no. 5 to 6:30 is
I see.
the
That's
in-person
Okay,
meeting.
sorry, 6 p.m.
That's Thursday
Yeah.
and Monday.
You're right.
Spanish stakeholder meeting 6.
6 p.m.
Yes,
6
ma'am.
p.m. at St. Mary's.
Absolutely. Got it.
Okay.
All right.
And I have
Thanks,
something on
everybody.
November- I have something on November 6th. What is that when it says Upper Lake Virtual number 2? Is that not happening November 6th?
We already
that's
scheduled it?
Yeah, it's in November. Yeah, you did. You gave us a list of.
I'm going to try and. We can do it that week, but if you're available earlier, let's try and do it earlier, only because if we need to have a third meeting, if we meet on the 6th, that next week is our absolute drop deadline. So if you are able earlier, please go ahead and enter that in the doodle poll. You'll also note that in this last doodle poll, I added in evening meeting hours and weekends. Like every open time slot I have personally from now until the middle of November is on there. It's on that poll. So if you can join me, awesome. Let's get this done.
Okay.
Thanks everybody so much for giving us the time.
Thank you. We appreciate you.
Okay,
Have a good rest of your night.
You too. Okay, bye.